it's a disgrace that information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. We have to be treated a little bit fairly. As an example, Hillary Clinton, no tough questions.
Thank you for bringing these dreamers to America. We're in your debt.
Now, a show without any political correctness and the ability to tell it like it is. Brought to you by Insane Throttle Biker News and hosted by James Hollywood Machikari from Motorcycle Madhouse and Biker Angle. We now give you America in Crisis.
How y'all doing? I'm James Hollywood Machikari, and I would like to welcome you to the new America in Crisis radio podcast sponsored by Insane Throttle Biker News. This one will be one of the only shows where you will get the facts unaltered without any politically correct nonsense the left-wing loonies love to throw at you. America in Crisis will be tackling the issues facing this country from not only a biker's point of view, but also an average everyday American. Today, we're going to lead off with the movement that has been plaguing everyday law-abiding citizens since old Wild Willie came to office in 1992. That issue is gun control. Gun control is the progressive loony left's dream, and one every law-abiding American needs to join the fight in. Right now, in my home state of Illinois, the village of Deerfield passed an ordinance banning assault weapons. All weapons are to be removed from the city limits by June 13th of this year. Yes, we actually have a salvo fired by the progressives in this state against law-abiding gun owners. These progressives are actually being represented pro bono by the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, and Mr. Christopher Wilson, managing partner of the Chicago office of Perkins Coie, in 2 lawsuits filed against the city challenging the ordinance. Here's the thing about these lawsuits. It won't be until it reaches the Supreme Court until it's decided. Illinois is made up of some of the worst liberal justices in the United States, second only to those out west in places like California, Washington State, Oregon, and let's not forget the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The fight will be long and hard. Gun rights will lose every time in the lower courts because that's the way liberal courts are. There's more of a liberal makeup here in the Midwest, and everybody knows about the Ninth Circuit, how they're made up. They don't interpret the Constitution as it's written. No, they interpret it out of some idiotic belief system they try pushing on the rest of us Americans. They don't care about the Constitution. They just believe in their beliefs, and you know what? This is the way society should be, not the way our founders meant it to be. In District of Columbia versus Heller, a case that is going to eventually overturn this craziness in Deerfield, Clark Nelly, an attorney for Dick Heller in the case, said this: America went over 200 years without knowing whether a key provision of the Bill of Rights actually meant anything. We came within 1 vote of being told that it did not. Notwithstanding what amounts to a national consensus that the Second Amendment means what it says, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Taking rights seriously, including rights we might not favor personally, is good medicine for the body politic, and Heller was an excellent dose. How scary is that? We were 1 vote away, and the Second Amendment could have been regulated to the history books. Because that's exactly what the progressive left is up to. They will try over and over again to take away a law-abiding citizen's right to bear arms. I find these people hypocritical and nothing short of socialists. Socialism is the ultimate goal of the loony left, as I call them. If you think I'm out there, then, you know what? Explain to me why millions of people voted for an openly socialist candidate in Bernie Sanders. That should terrify the heck out of everyone. What most people do not understand about socialism is only the top 1% have the money and the power within that system. The rest are made dependent on the government. When the economy starts imploding, because socialism has never been a viable form of government throughout its history. You start getting the collapses like Venezuela down in South America. People actually voted for this dude because the promise of handouts and taking from the rich and redistributing it. And here's the kicker. This is from CNBC. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders had a surprisingly good financial year in 2016. While the Democratic Socialist was warning against the concentration of wealth in the hands of the top 1%, he was joining their ranks. Though his annual income of 200 G's still makes him one of the least wealthy senators, the former Democratic presidential candidate made some $858,750 off of book royalties alone last year. This is Newsweek reporting that. Combined with the Senate salary, he likely cleared $1 million in earnings in 1 year. The rich are the ones with the power and control in a socialist system. Wake the hell up, people, and open your eyes to the play of the left. The left will always use children for the reason for taking away our rights. And the funny thing about that argument, they have no problem at all letting a baby be killed in the womb in the name of women's rights. Women's rights. That's the thing that has always been about the progressive left. They play on the American people's ignorance, promising the world so they can take everything from them. You know what? Reminds me of two idiots in history that did that. Stalin and Hitler. People, it's time to get involved in this fight. Don't think someone else is going to, do the fighting for you. If you take on that attitude, you're going to wake up one day with not only your Second Amendment gone, but many others the left will start targeting next. You know what? Thank God the Baker won that Supreme Court decision. Because the left just hates Christianity, don't they? We all know that for a fact. And that's, you know what? That's one way of them pushing their political views. I want you to listen to this exchange during a town hall meeting. This is the first step you can do in the fight against the loony left.
What I really came down here for is this. I've heard a whole lot of people in here talking tonight about this group and that group, domestic violence and blacks, these minorities and that minority. What I want to know is, when are you all going to start standing up for the majority? And here's who the majority is. I'm the majority. I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. I've never done anything like that. But it seems like every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet. You want to turn around and restrict my right, constitutional right that's spelled out in black and white. You want to restrict my right to buy a firearm and protect myself from some of the very people you're talking about in here tonight. It's ridiculous. I don't think Rod Serling could come up with a better script. It does not make any sense. The law-abiding citizens of this community and many communities around this country, we're the first ones taxed and the last ones considered and the first ones punished when things like this happens, because our rights are the ones that are being taken away. That's the reason why I came down here today. Gun show or no gun show, NRA or no NRA. I'm here to stand up for the law-abiding citizens of this community, because I'm going to tell you that what's going to happen. You can take the guns away from us all you want to. You all write a law, I follow the law, I'll bring my guns down here, I'll turn them in. But here's what's going to happen. The Crips and the Bloods on the other side of town, they're not going to turn their guns in. They're going to hold on to them. And what's going to happen when you have to send the police down there to go take them? The police can barely enforce the law as it is. That's what I see. We demonize the police, criminalize and vilify the police, and we make the criminals into victims. And we're talking about restricting guns? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that when the police department's already hamstrung? You're not going to be able to go down here and take these guns from these criminals. So the criminals are going to hold on to their guns. They're still going to have them. They're still going to break in my house, and they're still going to shoot me with them. And guess who's going to be the one that suffers? It's going to be me. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight, it is not going to happen without a fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean shots fired. I don't mean fist thrown. I mean I'm going to come down here to this city council and raise hell just like these loonies from the left do until you listen to the majority of the people in this city. And I am the majority. The majority of the people in this city are law-abiding. And they follow the law, and they want their constitutional right to be able to bear arms. They want to be able to go to the gun show and buy a hunting rifle or sport rifle. There are no military-grade weapons sold at the gun show. An AR-15 is not a military-grade weapon. Anybody that would go into combat with an AR-15 is a fool. It's a semi-automatic 22 rifle. You'd be killed in 15 minutes in combat with that thing. So we need to dispel all these myths, and we need to drop all this division that we got going on here. Because the bottom line is, when that Second Amendment was written, whether the framers liked it or not, they wrote it for everybody. And I am everybody. And the law-abiding citizens of this city are everybody. And we want our rights, and we want to keep our rights. And by God, we're going to keep them, come hell or high water.
That's the kind of fight everyone needs to get into. Put these politicians in their places. Get involved with gun rights organizations such as the NRA, an organization right now being demonized by the loony left. Get on the phones and call your representatives. Email them people and let them know you're not going to tolerate them bending to the interest of the left. Most importantly, I'm asking you to take 5 minutes right now and contact the Deerfield Village Manager's Office at 847-719-7400 and let them know we won't let this BS ordinance go. We will fight. We won't surrender to any governmental agency our right to bear arms and keep the weapons of our choice. Hi, this is James Hollywood Machikari, host of Motorcycle Madhouse and the Biker Angle over on YouTube. If you're looking for up-to-date biker news, then Insane Throttle is the place to be. Daily editorials and news that is dedicated to the biker scene. Come on over and join the #1 internet biker news site at HarleyLiberty.com. Or come on over to the Insane Throttle's new YouTube channel for the Biker Angle, hosted by myself. New episodes every Thursday at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m. Be there! So, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial break. So, the national unemployment rate has dropped to 3.8%, 5.9% drop in black unemployment, and 4.9% in Hispanic unemployment. Those numbers have not been seen in decades. But here's what Pelosi had to say when asked about them numbers.
Hip hip hooray, unemployment is down. What does that mean to me in my life?
Well, I guess it wouldn't matter to you much, Looney Pelosi. After all, your net worth is $29.35 million, and you rank 15th out of the 50th wealthiest members of Congress. So I guess the working man and women accomplishments wouldn't matter to the elite. See, folks, this is what I was talking about in the last segment. Here you have one of the richest people in the House acting as though these kind of numbers are not going to affect her. Well, she is being truthful there. don't know many millionaires who could care if the average blue-collar worker is making a living. This is the problem with the loony leftists. They are elitists trying to disguise their disgust for what they really think of you. They act like they are sticking up for the working man and women, and in actuality, they cannot stomach the sight of you. They just need your petty vote so they can maintain power. If what I'm saying is false, then can anyone tell me why these people spend 20 to 30 years in Congress making, $125,000 a year when they are multi-millionaires? I'll tell you, it's not about your well-being or that they care for you. These Congress people wouldn't give you the time of day if you needed the help. They would look down on you with disgust. Well, until it was election time and they needed you for that vote again. The prime example of this happens in the black community. I found it to be amazing that blacks would continue to vote for these Democrats. And I'll use the city of Chicago for an example. The west and south sides are some of the worst in the country. You want to talk segregation? Come to the city of Chicago. It's been the Democrats' policies that have kept the segregation going in Chicago. But to the point of blacks voting for Democrats here, every election time they are promised things will get better in the neighborhoods. Well, they go out there, pull that lever, and the next thing you know, they get some of the highest taxes in the nation. They are forced to live in crime-riddled neighborhoods without any help. Police and city services treat them like, third-class citizens. Chicago, after all, is a sanctuary city and cares more about illegals than those who put them in office. Those who serve the poor districts are usually multimillionaires with housings in different parts of the city. The Democrats bleed them dry because they know the black vote will never leave them as long as they keep up the bait and switch. This is the reason why voters have to start becoming informed on who they are voting for. Just because you grew up in a household that voted one party over another, don't mean you got to continue that tradition. It's that kind of voting that keeps you down. Personally, I'm an independent. I vote for who I think is being the most honest, which nowadays is almost 99% impossible to determine because they're all liars. But with that, and with what Pelosi said, should really give a reality check not only to the blacks and minorities, it should wake up people to how elites of both parties view normal, everyday, hard-working, law-abiding citizens. It was Pelosi, after all, that said, $1,000, those bonuses are peanuts. Well, to a multi-millionaire it is. But for somebody living on the south side of Chicago, it means an opportunity, finally, to get ahead.
African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following. What do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose? I say it again, what do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose? It's very interesting that they caught a leaker, and it's a very important leaker. I believe strongly in freedom of the press. I'm a big believer in freedom of the press, but I'm also a believer in classified information. Has to remain classified, and that includes Comey and his band of thieves who leaked classified information all over the place.
We got a leaker. President Trump reacting to the indictment of former Senate Intelligence Committee aide James Wolfe.
The long-awaited IG report on the FBI handling of the Clinton probe is about to come out. Who wants to bet it will be buried in the news? I'm guessing it's going to be released during the President's Summit with North Korea, or more than likely this coming Friday. This report here is supposed to answer a lot of the questions about the actions of the FBI and DOJ during the 2016 presidential election, and more specifically, how Clinton handled her emails. For almost 2 years, the American people have heard nothing but the Russian collusion crap and haven't seen a speck of evidence. Now that we are finally supposed to see some material facts on what happened with the FBI and DOJ, you have Rosenstein holding onto the report, trying to cover for both departments. This deep state crap is nothing more than a shadow government trying to take down a duly elected president. This should terrify every American. The power and control that only a few agencies have to dictate events within this country is nothing less than a Stalinist regime. It's obvious to everyday Americans what is happening right now. The recusal of Jeff Sessions was deliberately set up, and it was set up to take down the Trump administration. I believe 100% that Jeff Sessions was a part of the whole setup from the beginning. Jeff Sessions is a part of the swamp and always has been. What it comes down to is we have others besides an appointed cabinet member running the DOJ right now. What I do not understand about President Trump is why in the heck hasn't he got rid of Sessions and Rosenstein? Trump has had enough to get rid of them for refusing to give the Oversight Committee access to the documents they've been fighting for the last year. So he's got enough. It's, you know what, it's obvious that they're deliberately trying to cover something up. Anyone with a half a brain can see Rosenstein is a part of the plot to set this president up. Everyone can see the stall tactics they are using in hopes the Democrats take over the House this November so they can impeach the president. Which, if they try doing, you can almost bet unrest in this country will come to a boiling point. Personally, I believe this country is at a crossroads, much like it was before the Civil War. Are we as Americans going to allow just the rich and the powerful to control our country's future? Are we as Americans going to allow the blatant abuse of power by not only the FBI, DOJ, but the CIA? Are we going to allow a political party to work in concert with these agencies like the Democratic Party has? When you have a political party working in concert with country's top agencies, then we get dangerously close to a governmental structure such as Russia, China, and North Korea. You have the Democratic Party out there right now screaming Russia collusion. In actuality, for those who don't pay any attention, the Democratic Party is pulling the same crap the All Russians People Front does. For those who do not know what the All Russians People Front is, it's Putin's political party. It's basically the extension of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. It was the CPSU, which was the governing party of the USSR. The Democrats have been out there at every turn trying to cover for the actions of the FBI, DOJ, and CIA. The Democrats know perfectly well what these agencies did. They know perfectly well what Queen Clinton did. Instead of putting the country first, they put their party first. Just like the CPSU and all Russians People Front does. Wake up, America. It's no longer the party of Kennedy or Roosevelt. They are no longer looking out for the working man and women. The Democrats look out for Hollywood and the elite. The Democrats have a well-oiled propaganda machine helping them along the way, trying to spread the lies and to keep America divided. Just look at mainstream media, specifically CNN and MSNBC. These are the biggest jokes of a network I've ever seen. At least they could try and appear to be journalists. It's no wonder why President Trump calls them fake news. Which, by the way, more and more people are realizing. For the month of May, CNN didn't have one show that placed in the top 25. They were even beat out by Nickelodeon, a kids station. What in the heck is that telling you? People consider them nothing more than a gossip channel. Nothing more than you would see in those magazines that you check out at checkout lines. You know, the aliens have come, the aliens have come. MSNBC is self-explanatory. Anyone who has a Rachel Maddow or Al Sharpton on cannot be taken seriously. Not to mention that joke of Joe Scarborough. You know, they're still butthurt because Trump turned them away at his celebration party when he became president. Point of this is, America really needs to start reading between the lines and listen to these listen to what these so-called news channels are trying to spew out and call them out on them. These so-called mainstream media are propagating a stance on behalf of the Democratic Party. If you want an example, you don't have to look no further than this week when James A. Wolf, a former longtime staffer for the Senate Intelligence Committee, was arrested Thursday after being indicted on 3 felony counts of making false statements to the FBI in course of an investigation into leaks of classified information. Turns out he was sleeping with Ali Watkins, who previously worked for BuzzFeed, the joke that published the fake Trump Russia dossier. This was the same so-called reporter who identified former Donald Trump campaign advisor Carter Page as the target of a Russian espionage operation in New York. See, this is how the deep state works, hand in hand with the news media. And we are supposed to believe the news media has any credibility left whatsoever? This week should be very interesting if we get the full unredacted report from the IG. The report, if not tampered with by Rosenstein, should provide a clear picture of what went on behind the scenes and if there was truly equal justice under the law.
Yeah, Bill, I think this is a very significant development. Look, the fact is, number one, that leaks in Washington, D.C. are endemic. They happen all the time across a variety of topics and subjects. But what is unusual is when you can actually catch the leaker in the act or catch the guy or girl who did it. And it appears in this case that they've got this guy red-handed from what we've heard. It appears that they identified him. FBI agents interviewed him. He may have made false statements in the course of those interviews. So I think this shows, number one, that this administration is getting very serious about cracking down on leakers. And number two, in this case at least, they seem to have got their guy.
Okay, so the guy is James Wolf, age 58. And based on what I read, he was the Intel Committee's security director for 29 years. He knows everything, Tom.
I was surprised. I mean, this is a senior guy. He obviously was privy to a vast array of classified information. And I got to tell you, when this sort of thing happens, when you have leaks of this nature at this level, it is a real deterrent for anyone at the Justice Department to share information with people at Congress. If you give the information to Congress and turn it over to this guy, and within an hour he's on the phone to reporters, that's a real problem.
Yeah, the other problem is he can pick and choose what he wants to leak. I mean, if he's got access to all of it, he can dictate a news cycle, Tom, as you well know, they're living in Washington. Now, let me move to two other areas. The IG report, we believe, will be made public in 6 days. In about a week and a half, the man who is doing that report, Michael Horowitz, will appear before a Senate committee on one day and a House committee the next, and that will all be seen by all of us. What is your expectation as to how this story can change?
I think the biggest question here, Bill, is what he finds in his report as to possible misconduct that occurred behind the scenes at the Justice Department in 2016, and number two, what his recommendation is. You'll remember one of the very significant aspects of the Inspector General's report on McCabe was that it ended with a criminal referral, where he said, not only have I found wrongdoing, but I think it was so serious that it might have violated federal law and be grounds for a criminal prosecution. I think that is something for us to keep our eye on, not only what he finds, but also what the Inspector General recommends.
John Radcliffe's a Republican from Texas, right? You know him, who serves on the House Judiciary Committee. What he told us an hour and a half ago is that this is going to deal with the highest levels of our Justice Department, right? Former AG, former FBI director. This is big-time stuff, Tom.
Absolutely it is. And I think what we are going to get from this Inspector General is a thorough and exhaustive report. Look, a lot of times these reports are short. They might be auditing reports, or they might be addressing a discrete instance of misconduct. I think this is going to be the War and Peace of Inspector General reports, and that it is going to cover the waterfront. It is going to be detailed. It is going to be painstaking. And as we've seen, this Inspector General is not one to pull his punches.
Okay, the last point here. Bob Mueller apparently is looking for cell phones of employees in Washington, D.C. He wants to know on those phones about your encrypted apps, what messages you have sent, what you have received. I'm told in law enforcement this is becoming more and more common because that's where the evidence is. Are you surprised that Mueller's doing this?
I am not surprised in the slightest. I think the fact is that prosecutors in this day and age are aware of how people communicate, and particularly how they communicate when they want to keep those communications secret. And if you could essentially prevent law enforcement from finding these communications by using an encrypted app, well, no surprise, law enforcement will try to do their best to smoke you out, figure out how you're conducting these, and then not just ask for your phone, but basically ask for access to any sort of encrypted communications you've had. So this is becoming increasingly standard, and it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Look, Mueller is a good prosecutor.
Thank you, Tom Dupree.
Hi, this is James Hollywood Machikari, host of Motorcycle Madhouse and the Biker Angle over on YouTube. If you're looking for up-to-date biker news, then Insane Throttle is the place to be. Daily editorials and news that is dedicated to the biker scene. Come on over and join the #1 internet biker news site at HarleyLiberty.com. Or come on over to the Insane Throttle's new YouTube channel for the Biker Angle, hosted by myself. New episodes every Thursday at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m. Be there! That segment says it all, don't it? In other news, there was a march against jailing of former EDL leader Tommy Robinson, and it turned ugly. Police were clashing with protesters in the heart of London, with steel fences and bottles thrown, and there were 5 arrests made. The march on Whitehall on Saturday was the latest following Robinson's imprisonment for contempt of court last month. Steel fences and bottles were thrown at police, and you know what? Rightly so. During the protests, there were scenes of violence, and this is coming from a local newspaper, which saw bottles, metal barriers, and other objects thrown at officers. The founder of the English Defence League, Tommy Robinson, real name Stephen Christopher Lennon, was sentenced to 10 months in jail in May. He left the EDL, known for its violent street protests and accused of Islamophobia, in 2013, claiming he could not contain its extremist elements. The Dutch far-right anti-Muslim politician Geert Wilders was among those present at the demonstration. Robinson, 35, he pleaded guilty to contempt after using social media to broadcast details of an ongoing trial. The trial was subject to a blanket reporting restriction, a routine legal process in English law designed to protect the impartiality of a jury. This is what others around the world have to face when it comes to journalistic freedoms. You would think that the mainstream media here in this country would actually cherish its First Amendment rights instead of allowing itself to be a propaganda machine for a party. No, this country only has a few media outlets left who wish to keep that tradition of fair and truthful reporting alive. It was something near and dear in the old days, not no more. Media has become it's been taken over by corporations with an agenda. One that most of the time considers itself aligned with the Democratic Party. It's a sad day for the First Amendment in this country. You have to ask yourself what those who died for those journalists to have the right to print news would think of that sacrifice now. Journalism was supposed to be the search for truth and justice. That's no longer the case. Journalism now is there to try and deceive the American public into backing certain viewpoints. This is not what the founders of this country intended when they passed the First Amendment. The First Amendment was put in place to take on a tyrannical government, to provide information to people in order to keep the government in check. It's a sad day in American history with this state of our called press. Until the American people demand better standards, it will only get worse. The best thing American public can do right now is boycott news stations that push an agenda instead of facts. It's already started to work on CNN and MSNBC. Americans need to keep pushing the word out there that enough's enough, and we demand higher standards of our media, or we are not paying any attention to them. With that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the first show of America in Crisis. Next week, we're going to be talking about the outcome of North Korea, how the summit went, as well as immigration. That's a hot button topic. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you have a topic you would like to hear about or get involved in the conversation, you can leave your thoughts on our radio station hotline at 847-957-1656. Remember, stay vigilant and hold those representatives and media accountable.